Hi, my name is Yasmeen Sharara. I'm the author of Why We Play, How Millennials Are Rewriting Sports Marketing. It's crazy. I can't believe that in a couple weeks something that was just an idea is going to be a tangible book in my hands that I could hold and have people read and kind of put myself out there for people to have their own opinions of me or their own opinions on what I say. So it's kind of crazy. It's unreal. I never ever thought that this was something that I would accomplish. I was telling my parents about this, that it's kind of just me putting myself out there, which is not something I usually do. So it's a huge step forward for me just in terms of who I am as a person, and I think it's made me see things a lot differently in terms of what I do. I kind of just I think I enjoy things a lot more just because this book has made me realize that everyone's gonna have their opinion of me, but I just have to do what I want to do and not let anyone affect me. And I think that's a very hard thing for people to come to terms with, especially at the age of 21. But yeah. It's been very interesting. I think my parents didn't see it happening until I sent them book covers. And my dad is not one to tell me often that he's very proud of me. So to have him kind of just say that when he doesn't usually, he was one of the people who would tell me sports marketing is very tough to get into, you're a woman, I hope you know how hard that is. So having him tell me that made me want to prove him wrong even more, and having him tell me how proud he is of me for doing what I wanted to do was huge for me. It's not something I hear often. And then having kind of my friends just shake me when I'm sitting down and they're like, this is crazy, Yaz, I can't believe you wrote a book. And one of my friends was like, I'm gonna post this everywhere. And I was like, oh, I was just planning on having you guys come to the book launch. But I guess having everyone proud for me of what I did was the best but also most surprising reaction, because I didn't see that happening. I thought everyone would just be like, yeah, she just wrote it for a class, not actually wanting to show it off for me. I think I've changed a lot. It's kind of weird to see how much I've changed. I think it's made me put a lot of things into perspective. I've definitely mellowed out more. I think start of the semester I was kind of like most seniors my year, I can't believe I don't have a job. And as I've gone through, I've mellowed out a lot more, and I think things will fall into place when they do. You've given me a lot of really good advice that's helped put me in my position, kind of take a few steps back and realize that life has a plan for me. I just need to calm down and I can't force everything to happen. I think that's been a huge change in me. I also think I've come to accept a lot more the times when I fall and know that when I get back up, I do it a lot differently than most people. The other day my friend texted me and she was like, you may be the strongest person I know. And I was like, I honestly doubt that. And she was like, no, you fall down more than most people and you always get back up with the biggest smile on your face as if nothing happened. And that made me realize that I definitely did that because of this book. I think it's helped me realize that I don't want to take the path that everyone chooses, and that means I'm going to fail a lot more, and I'm more willing to learn from my failures than I think I would have been in September before I wrote this or took this class. I think back then I had no idea exactly what I wanted to do, and writing this book made me one of the really fortunate ones to know exactly what I want to do. Most of my friends are like, oh, I'll go 2 years into consulting or investment banking and then I'll figure out what I want to do from there. And I feel like they'll get lost on the way and not know what they want to do. And I think writing this book helped me realize that I have exactly what I want to do in mind, and now it's just getting it, and I'm willing to like let life take its path for it.
Yeah.
I think before I would have been one of my friends who went for a job just to get a job, but I don't want to do something I'm not happy about. I want my heart into it, so I'm willing to just wait and see. I don't know. I definitely think it's made me take things one step at a time. I actually read something online that said, like, if you take, instead of like having resolutions for New Year's, like having resolutions for every month, you're more likely to do it. And in class you said if you write down your goals, it's more likely to happen. So I've just kind of been doing that every month. I write down like my goals for the month. And I think where I want to go with this is just have a version of myself that's a lot more confident in what I do. I think I downplay myself and my accomplishments a lot just because I'm a shyer person by nature. I definitely want a job in sports marketing, and if I don't get that, I'm willing to wait for it. I don't want to settle for something else, so I think that's like definitely something I'm going to stick to, and I think that's where my path will go, hopefully. Yeah, I think I had my doubts along the way, but going back through it now and seeing the book cover with my book description and author bio that I wrote for like 6 hours with Sharon was incredible. Like, looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, this is me, this is like my work, and I think it's a good reflection of who I was at the time of the book, who I am once the book was written, and where I want to go. So I think it's something I'm definitely very proud of and can't believe I actually did this. I mean, Marin is the reason I signed up for this class, so I wouldn't have done any of this without you or Marin. But I remember she was like, we're gonna write a book, like it sounds really cool. I honestly thought that like the project would be maybe at most like a 50-page paper and I wouldn't hear of it again once I submitted the final. But when you took me one day in class and you're like, I need to talk to you, I was so nervous. I was like, oh, he hates my book. And you were like, yeah, you're one of the people who's gonna get their book published. I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought it was the craziest thing, and I knew my life would never be the same. Which it's proven to be very different than I thought it would be. And I think once it was real for me was when I saw my book jacket. That's when I was like, oh my God, like this is actually happening. And like telling people about it, I'm a very shy person, so I don't know how to talk about this huge accomplishment. And everyone's like, wait, you wrote a book. And I think until people actually physically see it in their hands, they still are like, well, she's a college student. But I think from day one, where it was kind of just an idea, to like a semester and a half into this, it's been a crazy ride, and I would do it all over again. Yeah, actually. For my first chapter, I interviewed two of my friends to get perspectives on millennials and how they view sports. And when I was talking to one of my really good friends, Rodney, his answers just made me realize exactly where I wanted to go with this book. Until then, I think my outline was there, but I didn't know how I wanted to connect every dot together. And talking to Rodney, when he said that sports is how you play the game and it's what you make of it, I was like, I know exactly how my game is going to be played with this book, and I will make it a good game. I think talking to Rodney really just helped the book come together. I just want people to enjoy life and do what they love, because life is pretty short and you don't want to look back and feel like you missed on something. If you want to go hiking in Patagonia, go do that when you can, because there's going to be a day when you look back and you're going to regret it. So just do what you want to do and be happy, because I think that's what's most important. It's a lot of work. I think the end product is definitely what makes it all worth it. It's just never losing sight of the end goal. But from the beginning to the end, it surprised me how much I changed my content and how many times I had to read and reread and rewrite everything. There's gonna come a point where you're gonna hate what you're writing at some point, and for me it was just closing my laptop, going on a run, or taking a step back and going on a walk and just thinking about it that helped perfect it. I think it's kind of like a mental marathon. You have to be in it for the long run, and you have to know that no matter how many times you want to stop and just say this is okay, it isn't until you genuinely feel it and until you get the okay from someone else. So for me, when you would be like, this is done, I knew that I had done the best job that I could at that point. It's also a lot of strategy. I think this is kind of like any sports game or a soccer game. You have to go in knowing your game plan, or it's going to be a terrible match, because you want to know that right when you step on the field, which is like the second you open your laptop, you want to know this is your introduction. Like, you can't, for me, I talked a lot in circles, and having you tell me like, make this concise, get straight to the point, it was very helpful, because I needed to know my introduction talked about this. I couldn't talk about something I talked about in chapter 7 because it would be completely irrelevant. So it's kind of just having that game plan, sticking to that game plan, and writing in bullet points at first helped me get my ideas on the page. And as I would write it in paragraph form, I would start deleting my bullet points, which was very helpful. And going over and having like 2 chapters next to each other, I would know how to link them together. And the takeaways at the end of each chapter helped me stay on path, because if I would reread it and there was a paragraph that just didn't make sense into it and I couldn't talk about it in the takeaway, I knew I just had to nix it entirely. So it's kind of just having the game plan before the match starts and knowing how you're going to execute every single move. I think as I was writing it, I kept worrying that my topic was not interesting. I didn't think most people would be interested in like what I was passionate about, because when I talk about sports marketing to my best friend, she's always like, yeah, like I don't really care. Like I could be like, oh my God, like look at those colors. And she's like, that doesn't mean anything. But to have, I think going through it, I was always like, like no one's gonna care about this. And it's different because I also have to talk about my experiences, and I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to care about me or my story, and I didn't know if I was interesting enough for someone to want to read it. But then I would have those moments where I would really doubt myself, and you would come in at the perfect time. I don't know how you did it, and you would be like, wow, this is really good. And to have someone like you tell me that it's really good, I knew I was going somewhere and that I could keep pushing through when I thought I couldn't. Wow, that is a good question. I'd say it would be people that actually know me. I think mostly my very good friends, just because it's not something I'm open about. They know me as like kind of that funny, clumsy 5-foot girl in their class or that hangs out with them. And they know I love to run and I love sports, but I think it would be like a different version of me. I know when my dad like read my original manuscript, he was like, I can't see you the same way. And he didn't know the person that I guess I was writing this book and who I am because of writing this book. So I think I'm more nervous of my friends actually like seeing a different side of me. I think someone who doesn't know me, I couldn't really care less of what they think of me. It's more people that actually know me for them to be like, wow, you're not the person I thought you were. I would say do what you're passionate about. It's a lot easier to write a book on something you're genuinely interested in because you'll enjoy the research along the way. You'll learn a lot about you and how you're passionate about something, because there are different ways that you can be passionate about something, and it's kind of just follow the path where it goes, just because if you try to mold yourself into a square and you're meant to be in a diamond, like, it's not gonna work. And Kanika, actually, from your class this semester, asked me to meet with her, and she wasn't sure where she wanted to go with her book. And when I told her just to follow what she was genuinely interested in, like, sitting with me, she figured it out. And I showed her everything I worked on from like day one to where we are now, and she couldn't believe that it took so little time but also so much work to get to this point. So I would say do something you like, because it will make it so much easier. Hi, I'm Yasmeen Sharara. I'm the author of Why We Play, and the book talks about how millennials are shaping the sports marketing industry and in what ways they're shaping the sports marketing industry, and kind of my journey in parallel to that. What someone would learn from picking up and reading my book is how sports marketing started out through baseball and its journey to being one of the most dominant ways that companies want to market their brand, and how millennials as people are the target nowadays, and how much they've shaped the ways and the perception of sports marketing. I think it's a good way to find out who they are as a person, who they are as a target consumer, and how influential millennials are in general. It's also a really good way to kind of think of yourselves in parallel to my journey, because I feel like as unrelatable as some aspects are, they're very relatable in other ways. So kind of a self-discovery through sports marketing.